Hello and welcome to Fine Arts channel. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make this whale fluke out of some pine wood. You're going to need, obviously, 2 pieces of pine wood, a chisel, which can also be replaced with a carving knife, utility knife, or pocket knife. You're also going to need 2 grits of sandpaper. This is 60 grit, and 220 grit, which we're going to be using to really smoothen it out. You're also going to need some grade 0000, that's 4 zeros, steel wool. And this wool is so fine that it's almost soft, and it really buffs up the surface and gives it a good, nice shine. To finish it off, we're going to be using some of this conditioner. It's just wax inside, and this works great as a finish. It keeps the grain, as you can see here, but it also protects it to an extent and makes it look very, very nice. So let's get started. In front of me I have 2 pieces of wood, and these are not actually the entire pine log, although they were part of it. Both pieces have been planed down to size, as you can see. This one is a little bit smaller than this one, which we will be using for our base. This piece will be for the actual fluke, and we're going to be cutting that down. This is going to be for the base, and we're also going to be putting a nice water design into it to make it look like the ocean waves. To plane it down, you could use the chisel, carving knife, utility knife, whatever you have at home. But this hand plane makes it a lot easier because you can just take it all off in one nice clean cut. What I didn't mention before is that you also need this dowel. It can be any size, preferably not too large, and we're going to be using this to connect the fluke with the base here. And the reason we're doing this is because the base is actually going to be uneven, and this just secures it really nicely. So I'm also going to be using gloves while I'm cutting the wood, so I'm going to put those on. There we go. And eye protection. Let me put that on now. And now we're ready to start carving. So I'm going to sketch out the fluke pattern onto here. And not being too specific, but just to get the general idea, because we are going to sand this down later. There we go. You can see that. And I'm just going to be cutting away any wood that's not part of that, and just getting the rough piece finished. So let's get going. The fin has been just about roughed out by now. You might have seen me pull out one of these, and these serrated knives help a lot when you're just going around corners like that and you need to take stuff out that your chisel, utility knife, or other knife cannot reach. So now the next step will be to kind of smoothen all of the edges out. So if you see on here how this edge is really smooth there, and it's also kind of tapered here, we're going to be doing that by cutting off a lot of this area, smoothing out those edges, taking some of the bark off of there. The back stays mostly the same, but it really is around the front that all of these edges get smoothed out. So let's get going. Alright, so we have completed the fin, and all that's left to do for this is sanding. There are a few areas where I might need to take some off with my chisel, and that's perfectly okay. Like right here, I noticed this was a little bit low, so I'm taking it up. And as you can see, I've tapered it appropriately. And one thing I forgot to mention is that as you go to these tips, it actually also gets thinner. So I'm gonna first sand it with my 60 grit. Maybe I'll use like a lower grit than that. And then I'll switch to my 220 grit, and this is gonna give it a nice smooth finish. Then we're gonna wait till the end to buff it with the steel wool. The sanding process for the Fluke is complete. It's now very, very smooth, and we can also see that the grain came out quite well after sanding. We're going to set that aside for a moment, and now focus on the base. If we look at our model here, we can see we have some water lines, and those are just grooves that are carved into the base using a rounded chisel like this. I don't think this can be reproduced with a carving knife or utility knife. I'll be using two sizes of the same rounded chisel. One is larger than the other. And so the motion you're going to do is you're going to dig into one side just like that, and then turn it around, and then dig into the other side. And that way, you get this little groove here that you can start to develop again by going like that, and then again from the other side. These grooves should be reasonably deep, and we are going to be sanding them so that they're very, very smooth. So I've now got a really, really crude, really, really rough water design, and you can see there's like lots of marks there and gouges, but the design turned out really good, and once this is all sanded, it will look really nice. So we're going to be using small scraps of sandpaper to sand this, and you might want to take off your gloves to do this because it's a lot easier. You can really feel the wood more. So I'm just going to go in and out of each groove, and that's going to take away any marks. And then once I feel like I'm ready, I'm going to switch over to my 220 grit sandpaper. By the way, this is 60 grit. And I might be using my chisel to just take off some hard edges that need to be smoothed out that are hard to do with sandpaper. Off camera, I took bark off the base, and I also marked X's where we will drill the holes. My dowel is 3/16 of an inch thick, so that's the drill bit that I will be using. We're going to be drilling around 1/2 centimeter into each piece so that our full dowel length is 1 centimeter. The holes have been magically drilled for us. And so remember, I was talking about the steel wool at the beginning? Well, now it's time. I'm gonna buff this up real nice. and it might catch, so if you want to get out any loose threads from the steel wool, all you have to do is take a magnet and run it over the surface, and that'll catch any steel wool that's stuck in those little cracks and imperfections that may be in the wood surface. You could do this a lot. I'm choosing not to because the surface is already quite smooth. Okay, I brought us a magnet and we can just look at that. It's just picking up all of the steel wool that's left behind on the surface. And on this one as well. Look at that. Okay, so I poured out some of this conditioner wax, and we're just going to put this on right now because it's hard to do so once the dowel is in place. I'm just going to use my fingers, but you can use a tissue or whatever you want. A cloth works well too. I've got a rag. It's just going to help wipe away any excess that's left behind. Make sure you do the ends as well, and this is really going to just bring out the grain of the wood and all the natural designs that nature has put into it for us. And you don't need a lot of this. This spreads really easily, and it's really nice to use. It's just a quick and easy finish. Now all that's left to do is insert the dowel, glue it up, and then we're done. Here you have it, our wooden whale fluke on our textured base. I really love how the wax really brought out all of the colors and the grain and the texture of the pine wood. I really enjoyed this project, and if you did too, please like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. I would really appreciate it. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.